And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
Johnny, later in the show, we're going back to Lafayette, where a candy store got robbed.
Someone robbed Willy Wonka?
Apparently.
Who would rob Willy Wonka?
What's the resale value on stolen chocolate?
Well, that gobstopper is everlasting. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is a columnist for the Southern California News Group and the host of the Howard Jarvis radio show, which airs tonight on KABC and KSFO. You can follow her on X at Susan_Shelley. Susan Shelley, welcome.
Thank you so much, John. Great to be with you.
And before we get started on the topic, I want to say that we were at the event with you in the San Fernando Valley over at Pineapple Hill, where we were collecting signatures to protect Proposition 13. And I didn't realize until the very end, until all the books had been put away, that I hadn't signed it yet. So you told me all I had to do was go to saveprop13.com. That's the website, right?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, so I went to that website and I printed it out and I signed it. And not only did I sign it, but I printed out extra copies and I took it to my friends and I took it to my family and all the people in my social network and I had them sign it too. And then you had the address of where to mail it to, and I put it in an envelope, and I put a stamp on it, and I put it in the U.S. mail, and the signatures are off to Sacramento to be counted.
Thank you so much. You know, that's all we need people to do is go to saveprop13.com, print it, sign it, and mail it. And if you have a few extra people around who want to sign it too, give it to them or just tell them the website. If we can get 1 million people to do that by the middle of February, we will have this on the ballot.
It wasn't a hard sell. It was an easy sell. You just had to bring it to people, bring a pen, have them sign it, and be sure to mail it in. So I encourage all of the rest of you to do that as well. All right, let's get to the big breaking news today involving the Attorney General of the state of California, Rob Bonta, who now has acknowledged that he has spent about $500,000 of his own campaign money on attorneys, on a law firm that he says is being paid to help the feds in their investigation into former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao and the Dong family, the family that owns Cal Waste Solutions, that has been tied to alleged wrongdoing with local government officials in the Bay Area. Now, none of this makes sense to me because the feds have what is essentially an unlimited budget to spend investigating wrongdoing. So why is it that the state of California would have to pony up to cover part of it? And then why would you go to a private law firm? If you're helping them with an investigation, wouldn't the attorneys at the California Department of Justice who are paid to investigate wrongdoing be the ones that you would then turn to help the feds? Not go to a law firm that specializes in white-collar crime to help the feds? This doesn't pass the smell test.
No, it makes no sense at all. And if they were going to use state attorneys to do this, or even get outside counsel to do this, they would have to do it with some other kind of funding besides his campaign funding. Campaign funds are very tightly regulated, and they can't be used for personal use. And if he was using them for any kind of assistance in relation to his own involvement, that's going to be a crime. Whether anyone in California will prosecute it, I don't know, because who would prosecute it? He's the Attorney General. So this looks to me like he's running a legal defense fund through his campaign fund informally, which is not legal.
And $500,000 is not an insignificant amount of money. If he's paying that to a law firm and hasn't been charged with a crime, that is heavy-duty legal work that he is expecting them to perform.
It sounds like it. It sounds perhaps like he had to do a deposition or something of that sort, and he had to have lawyers with him. Who knows what it was? But that's a lot of money to pay for lawyers, and it makes no sense at all that it's coming out of his campaign account.
When we talk to people in Oakland, and we've covered the Sheng Tao story in depth on this program, and we spend a lot of time talking to Seneca Scott, who was behind the recall of Sheng Tao. He's going to be on the program later today. We spent a lot of time talking to Judge Brenda Harbin Forte, who's a retired judge in Alameda County, who was very involved in the recall of Sheng Tao, and others. And they all say the same thing, and they're not reckless about it. They're deliberate. They say that they believe Sheng Tao when she says that she was not the focus of the investigation. They believe that to be true. And they have both insinuated that they think that the target is bigger than Sheng and possibly in Sacramento, but they didn't want to speculate as to who it is. In retrospect, looking at what's gone on in Alameda County and the claims that Sheng Tao and her legal representation have made over and over and over again, consistently, saying that the FBI told them time and again, you are not the target of this investigation. The target is someone else. That is not you. In light of all of that, do you think that the target could potentially be Bonta or Newsom?
Well, it certainly sounds like it could be Bonta. If he's paying lawyers at that level, it certainly sounds like he could be the target. I don't know what Newsom's involvement would have been in this, but anything is possible. The question is, what's legal and what's illegal under California law? There's an awful lot of stuff that goes on that's very sketchy that's fully legal if they fill out the forms, like the behested payments that they've used to shake down these different companies that have business before the state or a city that want a contract, and somebody in elected office calls up and says, I really need you to make a donation to my inaugural festivities. And that's legal to do that, and there's no limit on it. So if that's legal, then what went on here that's illegal, it's hard to know. But once you get involved in the federal law and you want to talk about conspiracy or bank fraud or wire fraud, I guess it's a whole different area. And what California thinks is legal may not be.
Let's shift gears here and talk about what's going on with Dana Williamson and a couple of other Democratic consultants, McCluskey and others, in Sacramento, where they're now being charged with the misuse of campaign funds, a dormant account belonging to then Secretary of Health and Human Services, Javier Baccaria, who, of course, is a former Attorney General of California, who had to put all of his campaign accounts into a place off to the side because you're not supposed to be political when you are a secretary at the federal level. They were charging him $10,000 a month to, quote, manage those accounts. He was signing off on those expenditures, which would then be illegal under the Hatch Act. Now he's saying that they stole the money from him and it felt like a gut punch to him. None of that makes any sense either.
No, none of it makes any sense. When you hire consultants, it's impossible to believe that they would do things that put you at legal risk. Why would they put the principal, the candidate, at legal risk? So then you have to look at it the other way and say, well, perhaps the candidate, the principal, the elected office holder is the one who wanted something sketchy to be done, and perhaps the consultants were the ones who did it, and then provide plausible deniability and minimal chance of leaks because it's such a small group. And it could be that. It could be that he knew perfectly well what they were doing with his money. But another question is, why is it legal for these candidates to park money for faraway races that they're not even going to run in? This was a committee for him to run for superintendent of public instruction in 2030. And he parked a bunch of campaign money in that account. And this is normal in California politics. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of 2030 committees from different office holders where they're parking money. And then they can use it. If they don't run for that, they can either transfer it to another account later, or if it won't transfer because of campaign regulations about the amount of the donation, sometimes it's different in a city than a state, well, then they can still use it to promote themselves, to donate to the party, to buy friends. So it's just a giant money laundering operation. And for all the campaign finance laws and all the forms that people have to fill out, everything that should be illegal is still legal.
Dana Williamson, who is the one who was arrested last week and charged with federal crimes related to corruption, was Gavin Newsom's chief of staff. Since that news broke, the stories about her have been fast and furious and all over the place, coming from Democrats, Republicans, talking about this woman as really a bully, the bully of Sacramento, who would call people up on the phone, typically late at night when she sounded inebriated, and threaten them. You're going to give me this or else. You're not going to hire this person or else. And she did it with the threat of Gavin Newsom's office. You will be dead to us if your organization hires person X. The governor's office will not do anything for you or advance your legislation if you do something we do not like, so don't do it. And this seemed to be common practice from her. And there are any number of people who are on the receiving end of those phone calls who have no love lost for this woman and certainly aren't shedding any tears at her plight right now as she faces federal charges. What does all of that say about Gavin Newsom, that this sort of behavior appeared to be going on for a very long time in his name, where I guess they had a good cop, bad cop thing going on, where she would be the ones to make the threats and he would be the ones to show up with the smile and accept them?
Well, it's exactly what it is. It's all coming from him. It wouldn't be going on if he didn't want it to be going on. If he wanted to put a stop to it, it wouldn't have happened. And this is how they run Sacramento. If you cross the governor, you'll never work in show business again, essentially. And this is how Los Angeles was run under Garcetti. He had a fixer also who threatened BizFed, threatened Tracy Hernandez that if they didn't stop supporting a campaign to stop a tax increase, essentially no member of BizFed would ever get a contract in the city again. This is how they do it. And they do it through consultants or aides or anyone other than the person who has to have their name on the ballot. And it's very, very hardball, and it's not really good for the people of the city or the state because it doesn't serve their interests, it serves special interests.
Gil Duran, who's a former aide to Kamala Harris, used to work for Jerry Brown and others before he went and worked for the Sacramento Bee, compared her to a mob boss and said that she behaved like she was a mob boss. That's how she talked. That's how she acted. Those were the types of threats that she made. For a candidate who is going to run for president as the savior of democracy, running shop like a mob organization, like La Cosa Nostra, is not a good look because that doesn't look very democratic. It doesn't look like you're working with the legislature and the interest groups to advance legislation that will benefit the people. You look like a criminal enterprise. And under no circumstances is that a good look.
Well, it's not a good look if somebody gets arrested, that's for sure. Political machines can end when people start getting arrested. If they go along and they don't get arrested or they get arrested but not convicted, then I think they all survive it because they're raising so much money with these tactics. And they're stopping all the opponents from raising any money. Because if you're running a business in California and you're donating to one of Gavin Newsom's opponents, you'll never get a contract again, and life will not go well for you in the regulatory circle. So they stopped the funding of opponents, primary opponents or general election opponents, the other party, or political opponents on a particular ballot measure. They stopped the opposition from raising any money with these mob-style tactics, and they've been very effective at it. And as I said, it doesn't benefit the people of California.
Gil Duran said that when you take all of these stories and you add them up, he thinks two things are true. One, he thinks Javier Becerra's career is over. He doesn't think Becerra can recover from this. He either was participating in the crime or is a complete fool. And why would you take someone who's a complete fool and put them in charge of the largest state in the union? He thinks he's done. He doesn't think that these stories necessarily end the political career and the presidential aspirations of Gavin Newsom, but what these stories do is they give the opponents of Gavin Newsom, we're talking most currently about the Democratic primary, it gives them the tools to use to beat him. The roadmap has now been established, and people now know what his vulnerabilities are, what his Achilles heel is. And if they take these stories and they take these tools that have been provided to them from Gavin Newsom and the people in his orbit, they can use them to defeat him in the Democratic primary and send him packing.
I think that's probably true, but I'd put it in the category of last nail in the box because honestly, I think the record in office that Gavin Newsom has, the record in California, is so abysmal. And I don't know why anyone in another state would say, oh, yes, let's get some of that California magic here So we can have the highest electricity prices in the country and the highest gasoline prices in the country and the highest poverty rate and the highest food costs. That's what we want in South Carolina and Iowa and New Hampshire. I don't think his record will allow him to run. And certainly if you put all of these criminal allegations on top of that and all of this stuff from his top advisors, that really is the icing on the cake.
How do you think Newsom's going to react to this? Do you think that he is going to defend his friends, in particular Williamson, who worked very closely with him, who ran his operation in the state for 2 years? Do you think he's going to provide a defense for them? Or do you think he's going to be the first one in line to stick the knife in because at this point they're no longer useful to him and they're just a liability, so why not discard them?
Probably depends on whether he thinks she could testify against him. Because if he thinks that, he'll have to be very nice to her and probably pay her legal bills to keep her from turning state's evidence against him. If that's not the case, if he's perfectly innocent and she was doing all of this entirely on her own, then I think he would want to distance himself from her and maybe say a few harsh things. But if he doesn't say a few harsh things, then he's worried that she'll testify. That would be my read.
Her take is that when the feds first started knocking on her door, they were looking for dirt on Newsom, and they told her that Newsom was the target of the investigation. Now, we haven't had that confirmed by the feds. That's just coming from her. So I guess it could be true or it could be a lie. If it's true, then Newsom could have bigger problems. If it's a lie, it could be used to manipulate Newsom into not stabbing her in the back, but standing behind her so he doesn't know what the unknown is. He doesn't know what the feds have on him, and he wants to keep her loyal to him.
That's a very good read. That's what I think is going to happen, is that he has to worry about whether she could testify against him in a larger investigation. And almost certainly he knows much more than the public knows about what questions they're asking and what they're looking into. Almost certainly that would be the case. So I think you can just derive from his reactions a pretty good analysis of what's going on.
And it also goes to show you that maybe Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris weren't as close as they publicly proclaimed. If it was the Biden Justice Department that was investigating Newsom and looking under rocks.
Well, that seems to be the case, although you never know if they were held back in their investigations the way the investigators of Hunter Biden were held back. You never know if they were investigating because it was all there in front of them, but they were stopped from going all the way to an indictment under Biden or not. It's hard to know. But certainly the Trump administration has no reluctance to go after people if the evidence is there, because they went after him, and it turns out there wasn't any evidence, but they went after him anyway just for political purposes. So he's not shy this time around about pursuing these cases if there's evidence of wrongdoing. There's no courtesy, in other words.
You can listen to Susan Shelley tonight on the Howard Jarvis Radio Show on KABC and KSFO. And if you want to download the petition, sign it, get your friends and family members to sign it and turn it in to Save Prop 13, you can do that at saveprop13.com. It's very easy. I did it myself, and I highly recommend you do it too, because if you think the cost of living is high enough in California as it is, get rid of Prop 13 and see what happens to it. Susan Shelley, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you, John.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, now that we've hit the halfway point of today's show, if you want to continue listening after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
You want more than 3 hours of this? Okay.
Do a Google on YouTube.
It's all up there.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. And Randy, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Ringo Starr to the Greek Theater on June 14th. Tickets are on sale Friday at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888 790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Needlander Concerts. Good luck dialing.
All right. It's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
And look at this. We have a brand new intro to the California Crime Blotter. Thanks to Herman for putting these together for us.
It's happened yet again.
I see. Time for the California Crime Blotter.
So the first edition of today's blotter takes us to Fontana.
Okay, this is a wild one. Apparently, somebody went up to a house in Fontana and threw a Molotov cocktail. And then a week later went up to the same house and shot a flare gun at it.
Well, that sounds like a peaceful protest to me.
For more, here's ABC 7 Eyewitness News in Los Angeles.
New at 4.
We got to get security cameras that capture how loud things actually are.
Well, sometimes it's so loud, even the security cameras pick it up. Like when there's a gender reveal party that sounds like a bomb went off.
New at 4, that was the sound of a flare gun being fired at a home in Fontana. The woman who lives there says this is the second incident of its kind in the past month. Inland Empire Bureau Chief Rob McMillan is live in Fontana with new information on this bizarre case. Rob.
Well, Fontana police just announcing they've made an arrest in this case. They say that
Not L.A. County.
No, and you know what? I think I know what the defense is going to be.
What's that?
I think the guy firing the flare gun directly into that woman's house thought she might have been lost at sea.
Well, Fontana police just announcing they've made an arrest in this case. They say the man they arrested is likely responsible for at least one of these incidents. No word on motive, but for the family whose home has now been attacked twice, they'll be likely able to sleep a little bit easier. Check out this surveillance video from the backyard of a Fontana home. Watch as a Molotov cocktail is thrown, hitting the roof, then falling onto the back lawn.
Whoa!
You think that could be a gender reveal party?
Celeste Gonzalez says fortunately the back lawn was wet, so the fire didn't spread.
Just disbelief, just very confused on why it happened. Based on like the location of our home, there is a main street nearby, so it could have just been a fluke. It could have just been
A fluke? I don't know if throwing a Molotov cocktail at your house counts as a fluke.
Who do you think they pissed off?
a fluke. It could have just been, a random act of craziness.
But it no longer seems random after what happened Friday night just after 6 p.m. Celeste saying she was home alone when someone on a bike drives up, pulls out a flare gun, and shoots.
Yeah, it's hard to chalk that one up to an accident.
It was very loud. There was a flash of red. I was sitting in the living room when this happened. So at the angle of it, if they had shot closer range, they would have shot basically where I was sitting.
A neighbor...
I don't know how much damage you can do for a flare gun, but still, that is quite scary.
You think when the flare gun shot went inside her house, she was watching reruns of Gilligan's Island?
A neighbor's surveillance camera got this video of the suspect leaving.
The person who did this spoke in Spanish and said, "Respect the family," and then some curse words in Spanish.
Whoa!
Respect the family? That sounds like a mob hit.
There's some kind of feud going on here, and I understand why we're only getting one side of the story, but it sure seems like somebody has put a hit out on this house.
Sounds like it to me.
Respect the family, and then some curse words in Spanish.
Do you or your father have any recent disagreements with anyone?
No disagreements.
You want to rethink that?
Is this mistaken identity? What's going on here?
We moved here 4 years ago, which does seem like a decent amount of time, but we both don't know that many people who live out here. Our family all still lives in the LA area.
Maybe her husband drives an ice truck for work, and the guy shooting the flare gun thinks that the husband deported one of his family members.
By the way, they moved to Fontana from LA 4 years ago. John, what percentage of their friends have come to visit them?
Is there a number less than 0?
Even if Fontana was on the way because they were taking the 15 to go to Vegas, they're not stopping off for a visit.
Nope.
In the LA area. It's really awful just because, this is the one place you should always feel safe. And, I figured by trying to get as many leads as we can on who this could possibly be, it couldn't hurt us at this point in time since he already knows where we live. So
they came after you twice. There's nothing, nothing about what this could be about.
What family did you disrespect?
So, we just really want an answer.
And Celeste Gonzalez says she's been in touch with another neighbor who says their home was also hit recently by a Molotov cocktail.
Okay, what's going on?
What neighborhood just has random people throwing Molotov cocktails at random homes?
Again, Fontana police have made an arrest, and they're working to see if the person they've arrested is responsible for all 3 of these incidents. Live in Fontana, Rob McMillan, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
So there's the bizarre story out of Fontana where somebody gets arrested after throwing a Molotov cocktail at a house, apparently another Molotov cocktail at the neighbor's house, and then shooting the first house with a flare gun.
Sounds like life is real normal in Fontana.
Respect mi familia.
All right, Randy, it's time to reopen the blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
We couldn't make this stuff up if we tried.
I said, hell no, baby boy. Let me get up on out of here.
It's the California Crime Blotter.
And this one takes us to the candy store.
We're going back to Lafayette 2 days in a row. This time, candy store got robbed. Here's NBC in the Bay.
A crime spree in Contra Costa County.
Now there is some alliteration.
Not at Mark Brown level.
Just for a level set, in case you're wondering why we always say that, this is why.
Naked and unafraid and just a feet away from the Beverly Hills border. As the tents go up, the clothes come off, and now outraged locals are fighting back against the nudity, narcotics, and negative impact on their businesses.
The best.
A crime spree in Contra Costa County. Many small businesses being targeted. The latest one, a sweet shop in an upscale town. Here's NBC's Jody Hernandez.
Today, the most popular things seem to be the sour candies. People love the toxic waste. They love the warheads.
What, you call a candy toxic waste?
So you want people to put toxic waste and warheads in their mouth?
Oh, what a time to be a young kid.
Today, the most popular things seem to be the sour candies. People love the toxic waste. They love the warheads.
How much money are you getting to bump off a candy store?
Not a lot. Maybe they're looking for warheads, though.
But the delicious barrels of sweets isn't what attracted some intruders to Zuni's candy store over the weekend. Burglars smashed through the front door early Saturday morning, hungry for cash, not candy.
And boy, do they have a sweet tooth.
I don't think they were so interested in the candy. We did see a couple of little pieces on the ground, so maybe just a snack or something.
The bad guy.
You work up an appetite breaking through all that glass.
Oh, yeah. Well, Snickers, they used to advertise the fact that they're full of protein.
A snack or something.
The bad guys pried out the store's entire safe.
What do we always say, Johnny?
Safes protect absolutely nothing.
Bolted to the floor.
Ask Karen Bass how safe safes are.
Her guns were probably used to rob this joint.
Bolted to the floor in the back room and then helped themselves to the cash in the tip jar and a few candies on the way out.
I'm trying to take it in stride. Obviously, it's frustrating. It's sad. It's really unfortunate. I appreciate, that everyone, not just myself, is kind of outraged that our community's been hit with more and more crime lately.
It's a chocolatier never thought something like this would happen to him.
You think they took some of those gold chocolate coins?
Maybe they thought that was money?
Looks like it.
Well, I didn't get any cash, but I got a whole bunch of gelt. L'chaim.
It's not the only Lafayette business targeted by thieves recently. Just a week and a half ago, about a block down the street, a crew of thieves struck Panache Cafe. Surveillance video captured at least 3 people breaking in and, just like at Zuni's, stealing the shop's safe.
Again, safes do nothing to protect your valuables.
So if these cases are connected, they started off at the cafe, then they decided to get dessert. Where are they hitting next?
Who sells toilets?
We just keep it in case it happens.
The restaurant next door says they've been victimized so many times, they keep a supply of plywood on hand for boarding up broken windows.
Okay, now that is sad.
A candy shop. They're not even a bank.
No, this is the restaurant next door to the candy shop. They've been broken into so many times, they've got plywood at the ready.
Unreal.
Okay, how big is Lafayette? Because there's a lot of crimes in a town that's the size of 25,000 people.
They've made the blotter twice this week, and it's only Tuesday.
For boarding up broken windows.
They won't steal that much money. We don't keep that much money in the store. But the thing is, costs more to fix the door, the windows, and everything.
Police tell us they're trying to...
Might as well just keep the plywood.
Well, with Willy Wonka, he made the entire factory out of candy. Maybe that's what they need to do, because if it's just candy glass that's broken, you can replace that easy with the Oompa Loompas.
If you ever do the Universal Studio Tour at Universal Studios in Universal City in Los Angeles, when they do that studio tour and they go through all the old Western sets where people would, be jumping through windows and stuff, all of that glass is fake glass made out of candy.
Well, there you go.
Police tell us they're trying to determine if any of the break-ins are connected.
It's worse if they're not.
If they're not, that is an awful town.
Business owners and customers are frustrated that so much crime is taking place in a town that's usually considered safe.
And if we want stores like this to be here, then, we need to protect them and make sure that doesn't happen. So it's unfortunate.
In Lafayette, Jody Hernandez, NBC Bay Area News.
At least you can all just assume if the police aren't able to catch these people that broke into the candy shop, diabetes will get them at some point.
The Lord works in mysterious ways. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. And if you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Dan writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Toxic waste? I thought you said that was a candy store, not the frozen shrimp section of Walmart. If you're buying frozen meat from Walmart, you got to rethink your life choices.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that.
There was, because of the way that Walmart works, there were chickens that were grown here, then killed, then shipped to China to be breaded, then shipped back to Walmart to be sold in their stores.
Yeah, that's not healthy. As I said before yesterday, I'm feeling a little under the weather because that pig on the plane got me sick. And I was thinking about making some soup, but I've been gone for a long time because I've been on the road. And when you look into your refrigerator after you've been gone for a long time, it's easy to realize when you need to go shopping again. And you know how I do that at my house, Randy?
How's that?
I look at the labels, because if things have been in there for a really long time, you can always tell based on the labeling. For example, the Indian on the Land O'Lakes butter got canceled years ago. So if you have a box of butter with the Indian still on the packaging, you need to replace it. All right, it's time to reopen the blotter.
It's happened yet again. It's Wild Wild West out here.
It's the California Crime Blotter with John
and Randy.
And this edition takes us to Oakland.
Someone stole roses.
Roses?
And not from a florist, like from a park.
I guess they could have stolen it from a cemetery.
Here's NBC in the Bay.
Well, here's a unique type of theft. Roses were dug up from a popular park in Oakland. Tonight, neighbors hope police can catch the bandits responsible for causing thousands of dollars worth of damage at this cherished garden. Here's NBC's Pete Serratos.
I mean, flowers don't last that long once they're clipped. So, like, what are you trying to do? Sell these on eBay, or did somebody steal them for a date?
Well, maybe they're going to the women's prison to see Mom for Mother's Day. They needed something to take.
They ripped them out and killed the roots.
Nancy Friedman volunteers at the Morecambe Rose Garden in Oakland, an 8-acre botanical garden that's been a staple in the city since the 1930s. She's showing us an area where thieves allegedly stole 50 rose bushes last month.
It's
50?
And, you know, roses have thorns. They have a built-in security system, and that didn't even work.
It's very frustrating, particularly for the rosarian, because he lost a number of plants that he's been working on for years.
Friedman says on October 16th, the volunteer noticed a large swath of bushes had been dug up overnight. The garden has hidden surveillance cameras, but did not catch any footage of the suspects stealing the shrubs.
Where were these cameras pointed?
Apparently not at the roses.
The cost to replace the 50 stolen bushes will be around $5,000.
Hopefully the next time somebody tries to steal something, they will be caught on camera. I know OPD.
No, they won't.
Yeah, just get ready for Easter, lady. They're going to steal the tulips.
I know OPD is following up on this. There is too much crime in Oakland. I think we can all acknowledge that.
Yes, we can.
Okay, he gets the papers.
Councilmember Zach Unger represents District 1, where the garden is located. He's angry vandals targeted what he calls a treasure of the city.
To have people come in here and just rip up the roses with abandon for theft is a tragedy.
Friedman says they filed an online police report. OPD tells us they're aware of the incident. In Oakland, Pete Serratos, NBC Bay Area News.
No arrests, of course.
Any Oakland or LA story always involves the phrase, no arrests were made.
This is why so many Oaklanders have been turning to a higher power.
Who else do we go call Superman?
Well, does he make you fill out a form online too?
If he did, he wouldn't be so super.
He would certainly be less than super now, wouldn't he?